My name is Karen Cheney, and welcome to Durham Needs to Know, a program that helps explain civics and local issues in Durham, Connecticut. Today, we'll be talking about voting the municipal ballot. Different laws and rules apply to different elections, and behind the scenes, there are differences between these voting events. But today, we're going to discuss the voter and the municipal ballot. For the voter, municipal ballots are just plain more awkward. There are a lot more offices and candidates. The ballots are longer and more unwieldy. In some towns, they are two-sided. It is harder to fit any extra information. Just look how busy this is. Always be sure to check your municipal ballot closely. This year, the Durham ballot is two-sided. It's rarely two-sided in Durham. Always check it. Voters may be unaware that there's a question on the ballot and overlook it entirely in such a crowded visual field. One year we had a question tucked into a corner on the front because we were worried that people wouldn't look on the back side of the ballot. And still, a lot of the people either didn't see it or didn't mark the question bubble. The single number one difference in municipal ballots is that you can vote for two people in the same column. Like all Connecticut ballots, the offices are on the vertical columns and the parties are on the horizontal columns. In almost any other election you will ever vote in, only one person is being elected for office, and so you can only vote for one person in the column. But with municipal ballots are different because they have multi-candidate offices. You could At the top of each office, the ballot will tell you how many people you can vote for, 2, 4, 1, up to 2. Here, in planning and zoning, you can vote for up to 4, but you have 6 candidates running. Before I go any further on this ballot is a sample ballot, and we already know that one person has withdrawn and there might be another withdrawal, so it is not a final ballot. And I'm not pointing to any one particular person to say vote for this person. I'm just using this as an example. Here you can see it says vote for any 4 out of 6. That means you can vote for any of the 4. Every year I would get questions saying, I would get voters saying, oh, I like both of these candidates. I wish I could vote for both of them. And the answer is, well, you can vote for both of them. All candidates run against each other as well as against the parties. The Republicans run against other Republicans for that office as well as the Democrats. So you can vote for both a Democrat and a Republican on the same column for the same office as long as you can vote for 2 candidates. This year, there are 3 candidates for the first selectman office. One's Democratic, one's Republican, and one is a petitioning candidate. He does not run as a party candidate. While he is a Republican himself, he is running as a candidate not associated with either major party. This year, the municipal ballot has a cross-endorsed candidate for town clerk. Same person, in both rows. The Republican Party nominates their municipal candidates at a caucus where all of the Durham Republican voters can vote. The town committee nominated one candidate, and Nicole was nominated from the floor. Nicole won that vote, so she was the Republican-endorsed candidate for the town clerk. The Republican Town Committee then found somebody who petitioned for a primary. That primary was held on September 12th, and again, the town Republicans voted for Nicole over the Republican Town Committee's nominee. So now, both Durham Town Republicans and Durham Town Democrats have chosen Nicole as their candidate. You often see this in a state election where minor parties are trying to get enough votes to keep their place on the ballot for future elections, but it's pretty much the method by which party members get the nominee they want and keeps the party officials from total control of who gets on the ballot. If the office is a single office voting, it's marked for 1, vote for 1. Even if there's 2 people, and even if there's the same name, don't vote for her twice, vote for once. If you vote for her twice, the tabulator will spit out your ballot as an overvote. If you have an overvote, if you have a spit out ballot, tell the tabulator tender that you have a spoiled ballot, return to the ballot clerk, get a new ballot, mark it, and deposit it in the tabulator. Extra ballots are ordered every single municipal election precisely because there are so many spoiled ballots. Don't worry about it. I've done it. Election workers have done it. It's remarkably easy to spoil a municipal ballot. If for some reason you don't want a new ballot, your ballot will be put into the auxiliary bin, and the moderator will run it through the tabulator after the polls close at the end of the evening. The tabulator will count your votes for all the other offices, but not for the overvoted office. You do not have to vote for all 4. You do not have to mark your ballot at all. Some persons vote a blank ballot, others leave offices blank. That is your decision as a voter. So tabulators return ballots for several different reasons. One of the most common reasons the ballot is returned is marking mistakes, such as an overvote. The back of the ballot usually gives directions on how to mark your ballot. Basically, you fill in the bubble completely. I'm showing you some examples of incorrectly marked ballots. Here, they put slash ones. Our tabulator is still sensitive enough to read this. But some ones are marked in a way that the tabulator can't read it. And here is an example. The tabulator is not going to read this, and they're going to spit it out. Get a spoiled ballot and vote the way you want it, or else your ballot will not be counted for this particular office. Don't write on the ballot, no wrong. If things are confusing, you try to go with the intent of the voter. If you can't determine the intent, then the election official can't count your ballot for that office. The tabulator usually spits back potential problems. I had one problem in 2018, which I found during a manual recount. The person had very carefully X'd across here without once going through the oval. We would never have found that clear vote for a candidate if we hadn't been hand counting it. Don't put us in this position. Fill in the bubble and let the tabulator count it correctly. Okay, so now we've looked at how to mark the municipal ballot. The next obvious question is, what are all these offices? What do the office holders do? How do I decide who to elect? And so the precise descriptions of these jobs are usually listed in the town's charter, but here's a quick and dirty version. I'm going to begin with the easiest one, the tax collector. It's pretty obvious. He does pretty much what it sounds like. He collects taxes. Middlefield doesn't do this position. They appoint it. The town's charter determines who is elected. So how does he know how much money to collect? Well, the Board of Finance sets the mill rates based on the appraisal of property. The Board of Finance decides how much money is spent on what, except for the education in our town. In towns without a regional school district, the Board of Finance would determine the school district's budget. But because we're in a regional school district, it's a separate entity, and the Board of Ed decides the school budget's finance. In Durham, it is up to the taxpayers to balance the needs of seniors and other citizens against the needs of the students, and they do that when they vote in the referendum in May for the school budget. So what skills would you expect a Board of Finance candidate to have? Well, finance, administration, knowledge of the community in general, labor laws, negotiation skills, and understanding of different points of view. The candidate has to be willing to put a lot of time in from December to May. They meet many times a week, they review a lot of material at home, and they have meetings with town employees or officials, and they hold public budget discussions. So it's not for somebody who is planning on taking a winter vacation. Durham appraises the taxable property, but if they decide your property is worth $1 million, you can appeal that decision. We elect the appeal board, Board of Assessment Appeals. And what would you expect a candidate to have for those skills? Knowledge of real estate values, knowledge of the community, fairness, integrity, considerations governing appraisals. Okay, now that we have the money, what is the town spending it on? In Durham, over 80% of the budget is for Regional School District 13. Less than 20% is for town expenses. So who governs the Board of Education? The Board of Education used to be elected in May town budget meeting, but a charter amendment has moved it to the November ballot. Considerations for the school board would include experience in handling a budget over $35 million, educational policy, union law, child development, federal or state education law, grant writing, the ability to embody District 13's core values, the ability to see issues from different perspectives and develop compromises among different stakeholders, and people who are willing to spend the time and effort involved. It's one of the most important positions on the ballot and has the most meetings of any of the boards. The Board of Selectmen is the primary governing body that acts on behalf of the town, and it develops ordinances. Durham and Middlefield have a Board of Selectmen system, both of them small with only 3 members on it. So the first selectman does much of the administrative work in running the town. If a document needs to be signed on behalf of the town, the first selectman is the one who does that. More smaller towns have turned to using a town manager system who is hired, not elected, and who does much of the work of actually running the town. Running a town requires a lot of specialized knowledge and has a steep learning curve. Many of the same consideration applies for the voter in evaluating the candidates. Can they fairly evaluate the different claims of different stakeholders? Can they read a budget? Will they go for training to educate themselves in complicated state and federal laws and regulations? A town is not a business. Many skills are similar to running a complicated enterprise, but instead of responding to a board of directors, you're responding to the citizens. And instead of working with hired employees, you're working with other elected officials who are equal to you in status. Okay, Planning and Zoning Commission. There are 2 parts to this job, planning and zoning. Durham hires a town planner who helps with that aspect of the job, and this board is one of the most important ones in the town. The town plan is a 5-year plan that lays out what Durham's goals are and decides what the community will be like. The Planning and Zoning hears proposals and decides whether they meet those town goals and interprets those proposals in light of land law. They also draft regulations. They've been recently working on affordable housing regulations, on temporary rentals, basically Airbnb. There's a lot of issues. They're redoing the residential descriptions for residential properties. So who runs for these positions? Business owners, contractors, builders, people who want a say in the town planning. What qualifications would you look for in a candidate? Integrity, the ability to see different points of view, the knowledge of community, land, traffic conditions. Will they show up to the meetings? Will they do the work involved? Read the sometimes lengthy documents? Go for site walks to look at the site? It's one that involves a certain amount of time and energy, and you have to understand meeting regulation rules. So the town clerk is mostly an administrative position. She keeps track of everything in town. She issues dog licenses, marriage licenses, records deaths in town, reports land transactions, issues legal notices, keeps the land records. And the second aspect of her job is she helps with elections. She prepares the ballots, she issues and controls the absentee ballots, and she reports the results to the state. It's a very job requiring a lot of organization, interactions with everybody in town hall, interactions with other towns, and requires the ability to get along with many stakeholders. If you have contact with town hall, you will probably deal with the town clerk at some point. Okay, so we've talked in general about the ballot, who is on the ballot, what their offices are, but there's one other factor to consider in voting a municipal ballot in Connecticut, and that is the difference between being elected and being seated. Many voters are confused about what is often called minority representation, but is really majority limitation. This state law prevents the silencing of non-majority voices by limiting the number of majority party candidates that can actually be seated on a board or commission. A party can run a full slate, or a party can just run candidates for the contested positions. Every election, people ask me, why do the Democrats don't run a complete ticket? And other people ask me, why do the Republicans run candidates they know won't be seated? It makes the ballot look funny. Well, don't worry about it. Decide who you would like to elect and vote for those people. By running more candidates than the party is allowed, the end result may lead to a confusing situation where a candidate with fewer votes being seated over a candidate who received more votes. And that is precisely the intent of the minority representation law. The Board of Selectmen has a unique, unusual seating requirement. If you want to be the first selectman, you have to run for first selectman. But if you lose that position, you might still get seated on the Board of Selectmen. Durham's town charter provides that a first selectman candidate who loses the first selectman position but receives more votes than a Board of Selectmen candidate will get seated on the Board of Selectmen. The remaining selectmen would be chosen based on any of the candidates running for that office who receives the highest number of votes and who meets the minority representation requirements. Okay, to sum this all up, while for voters, the mechanics of voting is the same whether it's a federal or a municipal election, the voter does need to be aware of some of the differences in marking the ballot and in seating the winners of the municipal elections. I hope this presentation helps clear up some of the confusion about how to vote a municipal ballot and with multi-opening offices. Now, when we all vote in the municipal election in November, we can all make our intent known. Understanding these differences helps us all to be better voters and better citizens. I'll see you at the polls.